Hey Kimberbellas, it is the first day of autumn. So it's time to start on our Boo-levard, Twilight Boo-levard bench pillow by Kimberbell. So this is the CD, you'll need this to get started. And a couple things. So your main fabric, I'll put all the cut directions in the video. Back it with fusible mesh stabilizer or SF101 or whatever that's going to give it extra stability. And then gather your other supplies. So one is that we need from our embellishment kit, our orange glitter for the pumpkin, and you want to take the top off of it. Make sure to peel back that first layer. And then the gold, this side, the gold mylar and the iridescent mylar. So we're going to use that for the first block. So our challenge today is the very first block. If I recall, it's called Welcome to the Boo-levard. That's the first one we're going to work on, and a lot of it is the same as the tutorials that we've done in the past, but not all of it, so make sure to pay attention. The reason is because of the cut directions. So we have very specific cut directions, which means that we need to move around our fabric or at least our design to be able to get it in the cut line or the stitch line, really. Anyway, so I'm gonna go over all of that. So one thing is I've decided I'm going to do the Kimberbell quilting different on each block. So do what works for you. This is your pillow. You could do one overall scene on each block. I've chosen to do a different one on each one. I've been seeing the pictures in the group, and the one I like all of them, but the ones that have different quilting designs on each block, I think that looks fun. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a gray thread. It's the one that's in the Broomhilda thread kit, but keep in mind something really fun would be a glow-in-the-dark thread. I was going to do that, and then I thought, well, with the tutorial, that's not really very fair to you guys because you're not going to see it very well. And I want something that's going to stand out so that you can see what I'm doing and showing you how to do it. But anyway, that's something to consider. So before you ask, this is called Luminary. I think it was a version of the glide, but not glide. I don't recall exactly. I'll try and find some information and put that on a post if you decide to do glow in the dark thread. I think that's it. So I will do one challenge a day is what I'm hoping for. Keep in mind I'm also working on Broomhilda at the same time, so help out if you see someone with questions. Help them help answer those questions if you can, so that I can take the time for stitching. And now someone's at my door and my dogs are barking. Hold on, I'm back. Sorry about that. So what I was saying is if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. But for everyone that's doing this, there's a ton of people doing it, and a ton are newbies, which is so fun. So everyone help each other. I am not going to be offended if you're answering questions on my posts. That will help me to give me time for stitching. So please do that. And like I said, one challenge a day. It should be very doable. And I will go over as much of it as I possibly can. And if I leave anything out, just let me know. And let's do this. Okay, Bellas. So we're going to start with our main fabric at 6.5 by 10.5. For our main fabric, but our cut size, our final cut size is 4.5 by 8.5, and that's how we determine our quilting. So think about if we want our block filled up, but not so much that it fills up our main fabric. Since we're going to cut it down, we wouldn't want our batting and our seams. We wouldn't want all that excess fabric. So we go by the final cut size. So if our final cut size is 4.5 by 8.5, then we want our quilting design to be the 4 by 8, and that gives us our seam allowance, that 1/2 inch. So it's a 1/4 inch on each end. All right, I am using the Quilting Stars as my first quilting design. It's by Kimberbell. You can get it at mykimberbell.com. And then go to the quilting. So this is the one that I've chosen. Like I said, you can use any of them. So a couple quick things is you can merge your design together like this so that you can see what it's going to look like, and it's just an easy stitch out. If you don't have embroidery software to merge them, I'm going to show you how to do them separately. So here's our applique design. It's really more of an embroidery design on this one. Well, it is applique because of the pumpkin. Anyway, and then there's the quilting design. So we're going to obviously start with our quilting design, and then we'll do the embroidery on top. But like I said, if you have embroidery software, you can merge the two. But the outcome is the same. It doesn't matter how you do it. So I recommend Cutaway, and Kimberbell recommends Cutaway for designs that are more dense. I actually am out of Cutaway right now, so I have Tearaway in my hoop, and then I've added another layer of Tearaway underneath my hoop. Just for extra stability. I need to make some time to get to the store to get some more Cutaway stabilizer, but that would be my recommendation because this is mostly an embroidery design, so it's going to be pretty dense. So Cutaway would be good. All right, did I go over everything? Don't forget your batting. All right, I usually just cut my batting the same or a little bit smaller than my main fabric. There's a whole guide in your Kimberbell quilting of what size batting you need. You could go by that or just cut it a little bit smaller than your main fabric. That's pretty easy. I use Warm and Natural batting, but any of them work fine. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I always back my main fabric with SF101 or fusible mesh stabilizer. All right, I think that's it for now. Let's get started. As I mentioned, I'm going to do these separately just for those that are going to do that separately. The big thing is that we want to move our design down so that we have a lot of quilting up at the top of the design, and that the little flower and the stem of this post is going to be right at our what do you call it, the bottom of the design, and we'll go through all of that, but that's the big thing. So you can see on this design, I went ahead and I did it using my software. Here, so if you're going to merge the two, the big thing is that you want to make sure that your post and the stem of your flower are right at the bottom at your cut line, basically. So you can see this is your batting line, and then this is our main fabric line. So you just want it down at the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want it down at the bottom, and it's easy to move the file down. If you were to just merge the two, then this lamp is going to be in the middle, and you'll have very little quilting up here, and you'll have a big open space at the bottom that you don't want. So, or you would cut it correctly and then have batting in your seam. So it's very easy to just move it down in embroidery software. I'm going to show you how to do it separately for those that aren't going to do it that way. All right, so we always start with our quilting. So choose your quilting design and hit set or go or whatever your machine tells you to do. And it's going to automatically center that in the middle of your hoop, so it's all good. Our first step is always batting placement, batting tack down, main fabric placement, main fabric tack down, and then our quilting design. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. One thing also to mention is if you choose the spiders or the Halloween lines, you'll notice that, and it was mentioned in the group, that the lines will go past this this first box here, and that's okay. That does not mean that you're going to have batting in your seams, because as you can see, this first box is our batting box and the second box is our main fabric. So when the stitching comes over the first box, we've already cut our batting away, so it doesn't matter at all. What it's doing is it's giving us a nice seamless look that it goes into the seams. So don't be concerned if you choose one of those that have the design going off the edge. You want that on those designs. This first one, the stars, it's all inside of this first box, so it doesn't matter, but I wanted to mention it for those that are choosing a different design for their first block. All right, so we have stitched our placement line for our batting directly on our stabilizer, and you're just going to take your batting and completely cover that box on all parts. Get it under your foot, hard to do with one hand, and just make sure that the box is all covered, and then we're going to tack down that batting. The rest of this tutorial I should be able to do in photos, but again, if you have any questions or if I miss anything, just let me know. All right, we've completed our quilting. Isn't that so pretty? Oh my gosh. Every time I use one of these new Kimberbell designs, it makes me happy. So, all right, the key thing here is once you finish this part, leave it hooped. Do not unhoop. Do not change anything. Leave it as is. All right, and then you're going to go back to your machine. Everyone is different, but for me, I go back to home, and then I'm going to load the embroidery design. You could, like I said, do it on embroidery software and merge the two, or you can use your edit screen and merge them that way. I'm doing it as simple as possible, quilting design and then embroidery design, so that you can see how simple this is. All right, so click set and embroider. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this. So if I'll show you what it looks like. So on my machine, I have this button that shows me what it looks like. So from here, see that little green arrow that shows that it's showing this part of the screen? I want it to show down here so that I know where the placement is. So I would just use this button here, down, and it moves the design to where it's going to be. Sorry, you can see right here. See this little green arrow showing us the bottom of the screen, or the bottom of the design. So you can see that the bottom of the design is gonna, I'll put my foot down, it's going to stitch here, but we want it a little bit lower. We want it above our seam line. So if you feel around, you can feel that the batting ends here. The other way to tell is just by where the quilting ends, right? That's a nice easy way. So we want our design, this design, to be a little bit lower so that we have all of our quilting up here at the top, and then when our final cut, it's going to be at the bottom. All right, so we're going to just move this down. So to do that, you use, let's see, this is okay, edit. So go up here to edit, or wherever it is on your machine, and then move. I'm going to move the design, and then I have a different set of buttons, and it's going to bring the design down. So I'll show you over here. While I click that down button, it moves where my foot goes so that it shows me where it's going to start my design. So again, I'm just feeling or looking at where the bottom of the quilting design is. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're a super perfectionist, go for it. Whatever works. But bottom line is we're going to just get it toward the end of our batting, toward the end of our quilting design. All right, and then what you can do is go back, go out of edit, go back to that one that moves our foot around and shows us, and I'm going to use these bottom buttons down here to just see where the placement is. So see, I can see that I'm right at the end of my quilting there. That works for me. That makes me happy. You can keep working at it if you want, but this looks like pretty good placement to me. I'm pretty happy about it. I can feel that my batting ends right here. So it's all good. All right, so then go back to the middle. And you can see, and then the top. So look at the top of our placement is here. And look, see, we still have quilting up there. It's really perfect. So in the directions, if you look at your directions, it tells you to fold your fabric in half, make a 1 inch, I don't remember all the details, but do a fold 1 inch, all of that. We don't have to do any of that because we've already got our fabric already all lined up just right because we did quilting. So if you're not quilting as you go, then you would need to obviously follow those directions. But for us, we're just going to move our design down to the bottom of our quilting and go from there. Pretty easy, right? Let's do it. I thought of a really good way to give you a visual. So as you can see here, I took out the basting stitches at the bottom just to give you a visual. All right, so this shows us there's our main fabric basting stitch and our batting. Can you see this? That's the end of our batting right there. There's our 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I'm just going to push this back in here so you can see. And I'm going to put my foot down. And look at that. So we've got it right on the end of our batting line. And our first stitch, I don't know if I can show you this. Our first stitch is going to be a placement stitch. And again, that's for if we didn't do our quilting, but we can go ahead and do that just to make sure that we've got everything lined up just right. The second stitch is a basting stitch around the whole block. You don't need to do that because we already have it for our quilting, so you can bypass that step. But anyway, so you want it at the end of your batting and preferably not in your seam allowance. So how easy is that to figure out where your actual guide is? All right, does that make sense? I think we're all good to go. Hi Bellas, it's time for our second challenge with our Twilight Boo-levard bench pillow. So today we're going to work on Bella's Boutique. Just a warning, there are 55 steps of this, so be prepared for a little bit of your time. And with the quilting, it's 60 steps, so it's a big one. So get all of your products ready. As I mentioned yesterday, have your fabric backed with fusible mesh stabilizer or SF101. And batting, I cut it just a little bit smaller than my fabric, or you can use the guide that Kimberbell has with the quilting to get it just right. And then get all of your fabrics. So today we're going to be using some of the items from our embellishment kit. So one thing I wanted to point out, if you're doing both of the group projects like I am, you'll have a Boo-levard embellishment kit and a Brunhilde embellishment kit. So just a warning, keep them separate, because I had a little panic attack this morning when I saw that some of the things were not in my embellishment kit, and turned out I was looking at the wrong kit. So have them separated, Boo-levard and Brunhilde, if you're working on both, so that you don't mix them up like I did. So for today, our main fabric is 8.5 by 10.5, but then we cut it down on the last step to 6.5 by 8.5. So like I mentioned yesterday, we use that as our quilting guide. So if our final cut size is a 6.5 by 8.5, that means that our quilting is going to be 6 by 8. So make sure and choose one of your quilting designs that's 6 by 8. I'm going to use the really cute spiderweb one from Kimberbell, and it is KDQ013. I really like that one. I'm excited to use that one. So I mentioned yesterday that, I don't remember if it was for Brunhilde or Boo-levard, but the quilting designs that go off the edge, hopefully I mentioned it in both tutorials, the quilting designs that go off the edge, like the spider one I'm going to use today, don't worry, it does not mean that you're going to have batting in your seams. You're still going to cut down your batting. That's the first and second step of our quilting. That's by Kimberbell. So it's totally fine. You're not going to have batting in your seams. The stitching does go off the side, and that is just so that it is sewn into the seams for a very seamless look. It's gonna be really nice. I like the spiderweb one. So what else did I want to mention? I'm going to use my 7 by 12 hoop. For those that have the largest hoop as 6 by 10, that's totally okay. You just need to use embroidery software or whatever to take out steps 3 and 4 of the quilting, because steps 3 and 4 is what makes it larger than a 6 by 10 hoop. And all that is the placement line and the tack down line or basting stitch for the main fabric. So after you do the batting, you would simply just tape down your main fabric. You don't need those steps to hold them in. It's a nice to have, but if your largest hoop is going to make it so that you can't do this, then just take out those 2 steps. It's very easy. I've shown how to do that with Sew It Pro several times on several videos. Hopefully you can find those or you've seen those. And if you're using a 5 by 7 hoop, I had somebody mention yesterday that they're using a 5 by 7 hoop. You can do this pillow, but doing the quilting in the hoop will be a little bit more tricky, and you'll have to figure that out. Basically for this one being 6.5 by 8.5, you would want to do double hoopings of what, 4 by 6, or actually even smaller than that. But you can do it, but it would take some trickiness using the different quilting sizes and using multi-hooping, but it's definitely doable. Or do the Boo-levard bench pillow and then either not quilt it or quilt it from a long arm quilter or whatever, you can definitely do it with the new Kimberbell Quilting Designs, but you would need to do multi-hooping, which I've also done videos on that too. So from Love Notes, there's quite a few. And if you look in the file section or the post that I did this morning, there's a link to the Love Notes tutorials. So get all your supplies ready. And let's work on Bella's boutique. So it's a big one, so have some time available to do it, and let's get started. Okay, as I mentioned, I'm going to use my 7x12 hoop, and I've already merged my quilting design and today's Bella's boutique design together to save time. You can easily do them separated. The key thing is to make sure to get your design brought down toward the batting tack down line. So you can do it separately, you can do them together, the outcome is the same, and yesterday's tutorial shows you how to do them separately without using software, using just your machine, or you can merge the two in software, either one. So, but if you do want to do them separately, please see yesterday's tutorial because the process is the same. All right, here we go. Hey Kimberbellas, Cristin here. Today for the Boo-levard bench pillow, we're going to work on Sit and Stew, it's called. And it looks like it's a nice easy block. It is no applique pieces, basically just embroidery. So when it's just embroidery, just make sure to stabilize it really well. I would recommend, and Kimberbell recommends, using cutaway, preferably mesh stabilizer. I actually am out of it, so I'm just gonna double up on tearaway for today. But anyway, so here's the basics. So we're gonna start with our fabric at 8.5 by 10.5, and then we're gonna final cut size down to 6.5 by 8.5. So that's what tells us what to use for our quilting. So if our final cut size is 6.5 by 8.5, then we want to make sure to use a quilting design that is 6 by 8. I am going to use the one with the witch on it. I didn't get the name of it. I should have done that, but I will certainly put it in the post. But a cute little one that's got like little swirlies and then a witch, and I think that'll be really cute for this one. So choose the 6 by 8, and if you do the same one that I'm doing, the witch, it has a horizontal option or a vertical option, so make sure to do the one that you choose. I'm going to do the horizontal. And same thing, we're going to do the placement line hooping, and in the directions it shows you to do that, what is it, inch or half inch fold and all of that. Sorry, I'm getting a text. But we don't need to do any of that because we're gonna quilt first. So I'm not even gonna stitch those boxes. There's a basting box on the embroidery design. We don't need that. We also don't need that placement line at the bottom unless you're not quilting. Then you would definitely need it. Boy, my phone is just going nuts here. Sorry, I keep looking up. All right, so placement line hooping, I talked about that. The design itself is 5 by 7. We're gonna do 6 by 8 quilting for the whole block, but I'm gonna show you on a Zoom meeting today how you can use a 5 by 7 hoop for those that only have a smaller hoop. I figured out at 3:30 in the morning, I was like, oh, that would be really easy. So I sent myself a little email at 3:30 in the morning to make sure to remember what I was thinking about. And I tested it and it works great. So I'm going to do a little Zoom class so that I can share my screen to show you how to do that. So if you only have a smaller hoop, you can still quilt these. You can definitely do it. It's very doable. All right, so today's project is on page 13 of our Kimberbell PDF. And I think I went over everything. Make sure, obviously, to back your main fabric with fusible mesh stabilizer or SF101, and get your batting ready. You need batting. I generally just cut it about an inch smaller than my main fabric, but Kimberbell has a guide that shows you exactly what size you need if you prefer to do that. I think we went over everything else. Let me know if I missed anything. Send me a question if you need to, and hopefully the whole group will help out with that. Anyway, let's get stitching. Kimberbellas, I hope you enjoyed a day off. I went for a bike ride and the wind basically handed my butt to me. But it was great to get out, so that's all good. So tonight, I'll probably not post this. This will basically be tomorrow's challenge for you. But tonight I'm going to start on Broomhilda's Bakery. And we're going to start with our fabric at 8.5 by 10.5. And our final cut size is 6.5 by 8.5. So that means that we want a quilting design that is 6 by 8. I'm going to use the spiders again. I decided that I'm going to do 2 sets of stars, 2 sets of the witch swirly one, 2 sets of spiders, and then I'm going to do 1 of spooky lines. Oh, sorry, my puppy got an owie. Anyway, so I'm going to save the really detailed one for my borders. So obviously you can do whatever works for you, but that's what I'm going to do for my bench pillow. This is our 4th challenge, and like I said, it's Broomhilda's Bakery, and I'm going to do the spider quilting in 6 by 8. I am going to use a 6 by 10 hoop. So if you don't know how to do that, watch Boo-levard 1. There's a detailed description of that. And don't forget to move the design down like we have on all the others. And this is another big one, like Bella's Boutique. This Broomhilda's Bakery is a big one. I think it's like 49 steps or something. So make sure to get all your stuff ready. I'm going to use my fabric backed with SF101, and you've got a few applique pieces, more than a few I guess, but some regular fabric ones, and I'll add all the cut sizes in the video. And we're going to use some things from our embellishment kit. So we're going to use our black glitter again. We're going to use the orange glitter again, which actually is called copper, I think. And for the first time, we're going to use this silver embroidery leather. And also this pink glitter piece. So the new ones, this one actually, this is the only new one we haven't used yet. Don't forget to take the topping off of it. And then we're going to use our clear vinyl. So one thing is we're going to use that felt again, and I didn't have any problems with the felt, but I've heard that others have. And so I'm going to use water soluble stabilizer on top of the felt. I've heard that that will help, and it makes sense because it's thicker than fabric. I think I went over everything. Hopefully you are ready to get started. Let's have some fun. I forgot to mention batting. Don't forget your batting. I cut mine to 7.5 by 9.5. I use warm and natural. Always use batting when you quilt. That's what gives it the quilted look. So that's it. Good morning, Kimberbellas. Cristin Som here. Actually, by the time that you see this video, it will not be morning. But anyway, I'm starting in the morning. So today we're going to do candy corn quilt shop, and a couple things to note. First off, thank you to my buddy, my Kimberbella buddy Luz, for talking me into getting a tripod. Look at no hands. I don't have to hold my phone, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, so candy corn quilt shop. So before we do candy corn quilt shop, we have to do dimensional pennants, and for that we're going to use that pretty gold leather. I haven't done mine yet, obviously, but one thing that I noticed in the group is some people were saying that they had trouble when they take the tape off. It is tearing their leather. I'm surprised because it's not super thin. It's kind of thin, I guess. But so be careful with that. So it's kind of nice to not be the first doing things, so that we can learn from those before us. So anyway, so make your dimensional pennants. It looks to be pretty easy, 4x2. We don't need to do anything to it. So one hoop should be done, but you have to do that before you start candy corn quilt shop. So for candy corn quilt shop, we're going to start with our main fabric at 8.5 by 10.5, and as always, back it with fusible mesh stabilizer or SF101. I've been using SF101 lately, and I like it. It's easier to adhere than fusible mesh. The only thing is that I don't use it under clothing, and I do a lot of clothing for my grandkids, so I use fusible mesh for that. It's thinner and softer, and you can see I do a lot of applique and embroidery shirts to have fun with my grandkids. So I keep both on hand. So then you need batting. I use warm and natural. Use whatever works for you. I cut that usually about an inch smaller. So if it's 8.5 by 10.5, I cut 7.5 to 9.5 for my batting. But there is a Kimberbell guide of exactly what you should be using, so you can use that guide. It's just easy to cut it a little smaller. So then we're going to have our applique fabrics. There's a couple, the yellows for the windows and the black, and this pretty swirly one. I like this. I think this is from Boardwalk, which I haven't done yet. I'm excited to do that one. And then this purple home fabric. This is from, I'm kicking my tripod. Sorry. This is from Make Yourself at Home, I think, or the design itself is. I'm not sure if the color was. But anyway, this is on back order at a lot of places. Mine's been on back order forever. And my friend Cristin at Daylily Fabric Shop gave me a few of her scraps. So I lucked out. So I've got mine. If you don't have this and you've been waiting on it, you can use another purple, or you can wait until yours comes in. It doesn't matter too much. But since I'm doing the official tutorial, I wanted to try and use the official products as much as possible. So it's this one with the flowers on it. So we need that, and then we need, from our embellishment kit, our clear vinyl. Don't know if you can see that, and our iridescent mylar, and our black glitter, and our white felt again. So for the white felt, I have this theory, do as I say, not as I do, and I have not been changing my bobbin back to black for the wording on felt, and did okay on the first one. On Broomhild, I wasn't super impressed with it, so I'm gonna change my bobbin if it calls for it. I haven't gone through all the instructions yet, but if it calls for it on this one, I'm gonna do it. So do what works for you. So the important part is that we are gonna final cut down to 6.5 by 8.5. So that means that we want our quilting design to be 6 by 8. So I am going to use the spooky lines. I think it's just called lines, but it's in the Halloween set. Not that there is a set, but there's a regular lines, and then there's a what I call spooky lines, because they're a little bit like wild. So it is the KDQ016. You can get it at mykimberbell.com. And today I'm going to use my 7 by 12 hoop. A lot of these I've been using my 6x10 hoop, and that's great because then I don't have to take out the basting stitches. But for the ones that go off the edge, like this lines one, I prefer to have that line. Don't know why, just a personal preference. So if you use your 6x10 hoop, same as always of the past tutorials, you would just take out steps 3 and 4, which is the placement line and basting stitch for the main fabric, and then it'll fit in your 6x10 hoop just fine. And I think that's it. I'm going to use my 7x12 hoop. I'm going to use the spooky lines for my quilting. And this is our 5th block. We're doing great. And everybody did so good this weekend catching up. I'm really proud of you. Good job. All right, we're good to go. Let's go. So I wanted to point out I'm using tearaway on this for the banner or dimensional pennant. That's what it was called. So I'm also using a what did they call it? A thread that doesn't matter. I don't remember what they called it. Something similar to the fabric, which is that gold leather. We're going to cut each of the pieces away, so the thread is not going to matter, just so you know, but just something that you'll be able to see so that you can cut. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is done, and just take it out, and we're going to cut right inside of each of those lines. So like I said, the thread doesn't matter, but this is what it looks like. It takes like a minute to stitch these out. Nice and easy. That's it. Okay, now you're going to want to load your Candy Corn Quilt Shop design. As I mentioned, you can either do the quilting first and then do the design, or you can merge the two. If you merge the two, make sure to bring the design down to the bottom of the batting line. If you do them separately, you'll need to move it on your machine manually, and I showed how to do that in Boo-levard 1, so you can find the tutorial there for that. I've had a lot of questions about my thread and what color I'm using for my quilting. I'm using the Boo-levard thread kit. See it there, hopefully. Sorry, I'm just getting used to this tripod, so bear with me. So the one that I'm using for my quilting is called Cool Gray 10CG9 by Glide. If you have what is it, glow in the dark thread, I would go for that. I think that's super cool. I decided not to do it because I thought it'd be hard to see on a tutorial, so I've chosen this dark gray. I think that it's coming out great and I'm loving it. But I am using the Glide thread kit for Boo-levard. So let's get started. Hey Kimberbellas, Cristin Som here. I'm outside because I'm taking my dog's potty and then I'm going for a bike ride. I'm pretty excited. It's gorgeous out today. So I'm gonna try and get some time outside. So when I get back though, we're gonna start on Creep Along. It's bright. Creep Along is a very easy block compared to the house ones we've been doing, so this will be very nice. We're going to start with our fabric at 8.5 by 10.5. Make sure and fuse it with, or back it with fusible stabilizer of some sort, and get your batting. And then there's no applique pieces, just embroidery on this one, so make sure to use a good cutaway, preferably a mesh cutaway, for your backing, or double up on tearaway if you're using tearaway. Just because it's a lot of embroidery instead of applique. So our final cut size is 6.5 by 8.5. So we're going to use a quilting design that's 6 by 8. And I am going to use the witch swirly one. That's what I call it, but it's officially called Halloween 3, and I'll add a link in the tutorial. And that's it. That's all the information that we need today. This will be Boo-levard 6 for us, and I'm going to do it tonight, but I wanted to get the tutorial video started before I head out because it'll be dark when I get back probably. Have a great day, everyone. Good morning, Kimberbellas. Cristin Som here, and
Char Farinado, Lori Anderson.
We're here having a Kimberbell play day. Aren't you jealous and wish you were here? Today we're going to do the Happy Halloween block. It's our 7th block, and actually our last one for Boo-levard pillow. And Char's going to tell us a little bit about the fabric that we need.
Okay, today we're going to be needing a 6.5 by 10.5. And don't forget to put some kind of a stabilizer on the back. That helps it from puckering. And you don't want to forget your batting, which will be about 1 inch shorter all the way around.
And Lori, what products do we need from our embellishment kit?
Okay, from our embellishment kit, we are going to need the iridescent mylar, the gold mylar, and the orange glitter, which I think they call copper glitter in the directions.
Right. And which side of the what is it called? The mylar.
The gold. You're going to have the gold
on because it's
going
to go in our lights. Yes. Yeah. Good job. All right. And for our quilting, our final cut size of this project is 4.5 by 8.5. So that means we want a quilting design that is 4 by 8. And I'm going to use the stars. Which one are you using, Char?
The witch swirl.
Witch swirl. And Lori?
The spider web.
So we're all doing different ones. So that shows you this is your pillow. Do it however you want. We get to, as long as we use the right size of quilting, we're all good. So that's it. I'm using KDQ018. It's the stars. It's the similar to our last lamppost one that we did. And we're all good. Are we ready for some Bella playtime?
We are.
Go Bellas!
Let's do this. Yeah. Hey Bellas, I forgot to mention to make sure to bring your design down to the bottom edge of your batting so that everything is lined up right. We're on our last block, so make sure to get the last one right. Here we go. Hey Kimberbellas, Cristin Som here. It's time to start on our inner borders for Boo-levard. So all we need is our black with little white dots fabric, and we need 2 strips that are 1.5 by 38.5. If you have yours longer, I would do it a couple inches longer if possible. I think mine's right about 38, so I don't think I'll be making mine any bigger. But anyway, we're going to do the quilting, and so it may, pull a little bit. But I haven't started mine yet, so I don't have a whole lot of information yet, but I'll do pictures as I go, as usual. And I'm going to back it with fusible mesh stabilizer, and I'm going to put in my batting and do all the usual, and I'll let you know how it goes. Hey Kimberbellas, Cristin here. If you're all caught up with the tutorials we've been doing, then you should have, let's see if I can show you this, you should have your inner border sewn onto your blocks. And so the next step is the outer borders. So one thing I wanted to point out is I did mine a little differently than I'm going to suggest to you because I wasn't really paying attention as well as I should have been. So I cut all of my blocks. There's 9 different fabrics. You need 2 of each. I think it was 4 3/4 by 3 1/2 if I recall correctly, but I'll put that in the directions. So anyway, what I did is I backed all of them with SF 101, and Also, by the way, there's 4 pieces on the ends and I cut those a little bit longer. I added an inch, I believe, just so that there's some give, you know, when we do the quilting. But one thing that I would do differently is I would sew them all together and then put fusible mesh or SF101 on the back of those rather than each one individually. I just wasn't paying attention. But I would recommend doing it that way. That's my suggestion. Do what works for you. So we're going to start by sewing those together, and then the process for quilting is exactly the same as we did for the inner borders. I'll still do a photo tutorial, but it's literally the same thing. And I'm using that Halloween 1 borders, so it'll be really cute. Don't forget your batting. Again, cut that when you have your whole strip of them done. That's about it. So I'll provide more information as I work along on it. Hey Kimberbellas, Cristin here. Guess what? We're on the last step of our Broomhilda pillow. So all you need to do on this last tutorial is to put on your envelope backing. Mine has cute little witch feet. And it's a different style, but I've gone over it in the tutorial. And then to put on your fairy lights. So I've seen lots of posts about these fairy lights, and I found them really easy. So hopefully you will too. I used, I don't know what this thing is called, and I don't remember how I got it. I think I got it in like, I don't know, a kit of maybe making earrings or something. I don't know, but I've had this thing. I bought it, came in a pack with a bunch of vinyl or something. I don't remember. But anyway, this thing worked really great for me. And then when I needed an extra little push, I used these, but worked really great. I will say that the hardest part was getting it through the vinyl. And even that was just really, really simple. So don't stress about it. It's really easy. And now we're done. I'm quite excited. I can't wait to have it on my bench. So thank you again to Brenda Pelton for sending me this very nice gift. She sent me the CD as a thank you. Thank me for doing the tutorials, and that was just so thoughtful of her. So very fun, and it was a lot of fun to do this group project. I hope you're nearing the end of yours as well, and we still have plenty of time before Halloween. So very fun. Good job, everybody. Just so you know, I totally blame the manufacturer of those little fairy lights because mine didn't work, and I had to go find some 2032 batteries. And since I had to go to the store, I got a little cake too. Oh, bad, bad, bad. But I'm curious. So this is my thing. I can't, anything with caramel, I have no willpower. What is your thing? Tell me so I don't feel so bad about my little tiny cake purchase. What is one thing that you have no willpower against?